Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you're ready to take on your next paying clients, I have good news. My free 4 Basics of Client Attraction and How to Stand Out class is live at haileyrowe.com/client-attraction. In the class, you're going to learn the top 2 traits I recommend for most coaches and entrepreneurs if they really want to turn this into a career. You're going to learn how you can build demand for your services and stop getting crickets on your posts. You're going to learn the sales roadmap I used to improve my sales conversion rate and help my clients do the same. And you're going to learn so much more. So go to haileyrowe.com/client-attraction and get your copy of the class today. You might want to be doing for your coaching business or service-based business, but also more about retreats. And if you were to have a retreat, what might that look like? How might you market it? Because Shannon is an expert in all things retreats. So Shannon, why don't you introduce yourself and how you got into this retreat world, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks for bringing me on to chat about something that I love. I've been hosting retreats for well over a decade. It's probably closer to 15 years because I feel like I don't count that COVID time of just weirdness that like it just warped time, right? And so it's technically been over 15 years. I own a retreat venue, a 46-acre retreat venue just outside of Austin, Texas. And so I'm also on both sides of hosting retreats as well as other hosts coming to my venue to host their own retreats. And then, of course, I've got some online courses to teach people how to host retreats because the more the merrier. This is definitely one of those areas that we need more and more quality retreats for people to, regroup, reset, learn, grow, heal, transform, whatever it is that they're looking for in this very fast-paced, not going to change world that we live in. And so, yeah, that's who I am. I also have 4 kids and 2 grandkids, and I love horses and drinking tequila.
Amazing. All right. Sounds like a good time. So tell me a little bit about, if someone's listening to this and they're like, all right, I want to do a retreat, but I feel like my audience is too small and I feel like I need a bigger list to market to. What would you say to someone like that as far as maybe they have a lead magnet, but they're like, what do I do with this? How do I grow?
Yeah. So first thing, as far as if you want to do a retreat, there's a few different ways you can approach it. I do highly recommend that if you're wanting to be a solo retreat host, which means it's primarily your retreat, you're owning most of it. You might bring in guests to teach something, but that's your retreat. Then I do highly recommend that you build your email list as you are planning out your details before you actually book something. You can do it once you book a retreat, as long as you've given yourself a year to market it, which that's not unheard of. The bare minimum 6 months, but if you book it, say a year out, then you get to grow your list while you're doing it. And it's wonderful. The other option, and then I'll talk more about how to grow your list, but the other option is you partner with somebody else who has a big list or a big following. And then you maybe knock out your first retreat that way. Or lastly is you work with it's kind of a hybrid model. There's some places out there where they will help market your retreat, like a venue type place. They'll help market your retreat. We're not that hybrid model, but I know there's some in Costa Rica and some of the other areas where it's like, okay, you're just kind of showing up, hosting the part of doing the day-to-day stuff, but they're going to help fill it for you. So there's different ways that you can jump in there and join the retreat business, which, by the way, retreats, y'all, I'm biased, obviously, but that is going to be a space. If you're a coach or any part of the wellness industry, that's a space where you can do some really deep transformative work and then continue to grow your business from that retreat. So it's just a really invaluable space for people to make change and also grow their business. So I just wanted to make sure I threw that in there.
Yeah. So, all right, let's say they decide they want to do one of those. But now it's time to grow their list. What kind of things should they be thinking about in preparation?
Awesome. I want to first say why, because here's the thing. We are now in this fully digital, media-driven world, right? And so we many people, especially those that are new in, say, the retreat space or events type of space, they're thinking everything's going to be through social media. And I want to just give you some statistics to show why the email list is way more important than social media. Social media can help feed the email list, but it should not be your primary gig. And the statistics will kind of tell you why. And this is even like I've worked with hosts who have had hundreds of thousands of followers, and still you cannot depend on that. And here's why. So let me just give you some statistics. If we're talking ROI, email marketing gives you an average ROI of $42 for every $1 spent. Where in contrast, social media's ROI is really, really hard to measure because it's really focused more on engagement and brand awareness versus direct sales. So just not even knowing what that ROI is going to be on social media, right? So that's just one example. The other thing is better engagement rates. So the average open rate for emails across every industry is 21.33%. with an average click-through of like 2.62%, okay? But by comparison, organic reach on Facebook is around 5.2%, which means that only a small percentage of your followers see your post. And then Instagram engagement rates for businesses is around 0.6%. So this just gives you an idea of the differences. The other thing that I'm really big on is we have more control and we own our email list. That's our list. Whereas social media, everybody that's listening to this or watching this has probably at some point realized that their engagement is all over the place because algorithms change or we get shadow banned and you may not even know it. There's a giant list. I have a link. There's a giant list of where you can find all the current shadow banned words that constantly change. And sometimes it's as simple as, I'm not even kidding, like picnic. Like it's the dumbest things that for some reason get flagged as a shadow banned and then they'll correct it eventually. But what if you just did a post with one of these shadow banned words and now you're going to be, your stuff's not going to show up for a few days. And not to mention on average, business accounts, social media business accounts, they have literally less than 5% of your followers are going to see your stuff unless you pay for it. And even then when you pay for it, it gets into like 11%-ish of, reach. I mean, it's phenomenal the differences between email marketing and then social media marketing as far as the reach. You get to be more direct and targeted in your communication. And here's an interesting one. There are actually more email users than social media users. I don't know why. I thought that would not be the case, which is silly because email has been around longer. But yeah, so there are estimated 4.3 billion email users worldwide, whereas there's 2.9 billion active users on social media. So just that alone shows that people are in their email more than they are on their social media. Anyway, so that's just some whys.
Well, I had to add a little bit to that because you need an email address first to be able to even set up a social media account because it's your login usually. So
Very good point.
I think that the thing you mentioned about, it's funny you mentioned those stats because I referenced some of the same ones. I did this live event recently sharing how to go from crickets to clients with a compelling freebie funnel. And it was all about how you need to have a lead magnet and grow your list and drive people there to do all your, selling. And just for anybody listening, the free replay is at haileyrowe.com/live-event. Or no, I think it's just live event, all one word. But my point there is I think people don't realize that. Like you said, they just assume, oh, I'm going to post and people are going to see my post. And to your shadow ban point, I think I know what you're talking about. There's a website. Is it a website where you can put in hashtags and it like tells you if those are shadow ban hashtags?
You can do both. It's because the list is so large, it's hard to go through all of the shadow banned words. So you can type in a word just to see if it's shadow banned, which is nice. And I've already a couple of times been like, what in the hell is going on with this one post? Because it's really good post, and if you copy it and pop it in there, you'll see, oh, this one word is shadow banned in this one moment in time. The whole point being is that the algorithm is wonky, y'all, and it's constantly changing.
Right. And so we don't want to be having to be at the mercy of that. So tell me maybe an example of a retreat you were hosting and then how you took the first steps to grow your list beforehand.
Yep, great question. It starts just like you said. For me, actually, it starts first by the audience, narrowing down your audience. Who exactly are you going to serve? I'm a big proponent of if you're marketing to everyone, you're marketing to no one. So you first need to know who exactly you are going to serve. What are the demographics? Where do they hang out? What are some trigger points for them? What are some pain points for them? What are some power points for them? Just knowing, and I mean down to like every possible detail you can think of who your ideal client is, because that is who you are going to market to. You're going to use the language that they can hear and that they appreciate, et cetera, and so forth. Because knowing that, then you will do what you've already mentioned a couple of times, which is you're going to create a freebie for them. And it needs to be a valuable freebie. It can't just be, I don't know if I can cuss, so I'll say BS. You're going to create some BS, or you're not going to create some BS freebie or content for them. You want to create something that's really, really valuable, a valuable lead magnet, whether it's an ebook, a checklist, a guide, a webinar, a free trial, whatever it is, you're going to create this valuable lead magnet for that ideal guest. In other words, I'm making this up, but let's say your ideal guest is, midlife women who are about to become empty nesters. Well, you're not going to create a free guide on how to balance kids and work life, right? Because that's not speaking to your ideal client. So the point is that you want to create a lead magnet that specifically helps your ideal audience and is valuable. I can't stress that enough, because I've seen people who are like, here's my lead magnet. And I'm like, well, what is that going to do? It's got to do something for them, give them some value and some benefit. Once you've done that, once you've created that aligns with your audience's needs, as well as what it also feeds into your business offering. So let's say you're doing a mindful retreat, right? You want to do a very mindful, grounding retreat that helps reset people. So you might create a 7-day mindful meditation giveaway, right? So for 7 days, they're going to get an email with that day's mindful meditation with a little bit of activity, and that would be a really great, valuable lead magnet. And that will feed into your mindful retreat, right, that you're going to be hosting later on. So if they really enjoyed this valuable content, that's why it's got to be valuable, then they will then, ideally, as you continue to nurture this email list, this person on your email list, these people, they will sign up for your retreat. So you create that valuable content, valuable lead magnet. And then you optimize your website or opt-in forms or landing pages in order to capture the email address to then offer that free magnet, right? So maybe you create a landing page and you go onto GoDaddy or wherever you buy websites, and you buy a website domain that says 7dayfreemeditation.com. You don't have to do that, but that's just one way you could do it. And then you create a landing page for that, or a pop-up page for that, or whatever it is that, so when you do market your free giveaway, which that is where you would use social media, it's easy to find, right? 7dayfreemeditation.com or whatever it is. And listen, the landing pages these days are like $20, or the website addresses. So you can buy a website address for nothing these days. And so, so you create the landing page that's just super simple, really easy, first name, email address, nothing complicated. And then you set up, an autoresponder from there, a drip campaign. So they sign up for your free 7-day meditations, and it automatically starts sending it to them. And then you'll continue to nurture that person, right? You'll continue to nurture that person through additional resources. By the way, here's something we're going to do at our retreat, and I wanted to give you a little taste of it, that type of thing. Me personally, I don't just right away sell them. I'm really trying to nurture the relationship. I want them to create this environment where they really are trusting the content that I'm sending them, and they are desiring more. So I'm giving these little drips. Here's this little drip. Here's this little drip. Maybe I'll send now a video of me at my last retreat, like, oh my gosh, whatever, something really exciting. So you make it fun, exciting, in your voice, as well as the language that your ideal client is, resonates with them. And so you continue to nurture it. And that's where you would use social media to advertise, quote unquote advertise, your free lead magnet. You would also, though, do content marketing. And this is where I'm a real big proponent of content marketing, which social media feeds into that. So blogging. On your blog every week, by the way, ideally you're doing a blog every week because that helps with SEO, organic SEO reach. You're doing some really cool topic. And then, by the way, grab my free 7-day meditation. You're guest blogging. You're asking others, can I guest blog on your blog? And you're offering, by the way, You're getting on a podcast and you're saying, hey, by the way, free, right? And so content marketing, getting out there and sharing the word. And all of these things are free, by the way. These are all free ways that you can get the organic reach going and building your list. Pinterest. Pinterest is a really good one. It is still social media, but it's a whole different kind of social media. And so, posting on Pinterest regularly, creating a dream vision board for your retreat or a mindfulness vision board or whatever matches what you're going to teach. And within there, you're posting articles over and over again about some really good tidbit. By the way, in that article, find my free 7-day guide. And so you can kind of see the trend here is you're sharing content, you're sharing valuable content over many different platforms and inviting them into this free lead magnet that you will then continue to nurture them. This does take some time, though, as you can see. It's not something that you could say, I'm going to fill a retreat in 30 to 60 days with this type of plan. That's not typically how it works. Maybe, depending upon what you do and what your lead magnet is and who your audience is, and if you end up throwing some money on it, like with Google Ads or whatever. But if you're wanting to do it organically and you're wanting to do it the least expensive way, it's going to take a little bit of time. But what a cool way to do it, because now you'll have this content that will be evergreen forever. Like I have content from 15 years ago that still feeds my retreats to this day. And I'm not paying anything for that. Once in a while, I'll go in and update something, but I'm not paying anything for that. It's just there waiting for someone to do a search and it grabs it.
Amazing. I love that. So, and I think one of the questions that may come up is, what are some, when it comes to marketing your retreat and once you have people on your list and you're talking about it, what are maybe some mistakes that keep retreat leaders from getting as much signups or making it a profitable retreat?
I love this question. 2 things. I think the first one I would always say is their belief system. I know, super woo-woo, but it is. If you have any doubt or you're like, from day one, you're like, gosh, I don't even know if this is going to fill. Who's going to do this? Well, it seems super weird, but you will put that energy out and it will be felt and your retreat will not fail. And so, yes, you'll be nervous if it's your first one. That's totally normal, but you feel confident in your offering and you feel confident in what you're going to deliver. And you know, if the right person shows up, that's going to be powerful, right? So there's a difference between that and being nervous versus, oh, I don't even know if anybody's going to want this. I don't know, whatever. The second thing is, are you niched? Are you talking to a target audience, or does your message not resonate with anyone because you're trying to make it too broad? Because you're like, I want all these people to come. And I see that happen a lot too. Well, then you're going to get lost in the sea of all the different retreats and events are out there. You really want to get very targeted and niched so that you are speaking to your audience directly. I want to add in a third one, just because I was talking about this with another podcaster on my podcast the other day. And let me just tell you this. It goes into that belief system, and especially goes into the belief system when it comes to money and value. And we have in our venue, I have had male hosts come through and I've had female hosts come through. And for whatever reason, females really struggle with charging what they should charge for their stuff. Mm-hmm. It's a value perceived thing. It's an I'm not good enough thing. It's whatever it is, it's stuck in there. Because let me just tell you that the males that come in here as hosts, they have no problem with posting and charging what they feel is valuable and then some. And there's never this question of, gosh, do you think it will fill? I've never had that with any male host ever. And I'm not trying to be sexist here. I just want to give you an example that it all ties to your belief system. Don't get me wrong. I've also had some badass females come in here like, oh yeah, I've got this. But more often than not, the ones that are afraid have always been women who are afraid of their own value. They're afraid to price it properly. They're thinking no one will pay for that. And that goes into that belief system. Yes, they damn will. If you're offering a good value and you're authentically positioning something that's beautiful and transformative and, all that good stuff, yes, someone will. Absolutely pay for it. I have literally had people come through with very similar retreats, and one priced it, super low, and one priced it super high, offering similar things. And the super high one sold out. and the super low one did not. Because the other thing that happens is that we try to price it, oh, I want to price it low, I'm afraid, or whatever. And the average consumer is going to look at that and go, that don't seem right. That seems low. I'm not sure what the heck's going to go on with that retreat. What kind of food am I going to get? What are my accommodations going to be like? I don't know. So it also can work against you if you don't price it right. So anyway, so that's what I would say. It's your belief system first and foremost. It's, are you talking to your niched audience? Are you for sure narrowed down to who you want to serve? And then are you pricing it properly for everybody involved? Yes, for your guests, but for you, for your profit, for making sure that it's a good energy exchange, and then you believe in that pricing.
Yeah, definitely. Good points there. And I think a lot of times people make their pricing mean it's about them, instead of it's about what is the retreat, what is the value of the retreat, what are people going to get out of the retreat. And I think that's where people maybe get tripped up, because you can't even put a price on yourself, number one. And number two, they tend to undervalue themselves. So then they undervalue their retreat. So what would be some ways to help make our retreats stand out and be a good value? What are some things you need to consider in making sure it's, going to stand out and be memorable?
It's a great question. I hate to keep tying it back, but it really does depend on who your audience is that you're serving. If you're serving a certain demographic that really appreciates luxury accommodations and luxury, very high-end things, then that's what you should be providing. It's very high. And that sounds silly, but even down to the goodie bag you provide, it should be like good shit and not that tchotchke crap that sometimes people will give away, right? So it totally depends on your ideal client, what they value. But having a really nice balance based on what your ideal client is, having a really nice balance of offerings as well as processing times, as well as amenities that are important to them. If, having saunas and hot tubs and pools and trails and, those types of things that are important to them, then making sure that you have that. If, having extra activities like horseback riding or skeet shooting or wine tasting or whatever it is, just making sure that you have a nice rounded out schedule for the things that your ideal client would want. And that it's marketed that way, right? So for instance, it's okay if you truly have a low cost camping weekend of just a girls' weekend getaway. Just make sure it's marketed that way and that you're using the language that resonates with those who you are trying to attract into that space. So it really does. It still ties down to like who your ideal guest is and what's important to them. What would they want based on their demographics?
Love that. Amazing. What about after a retreat? Because I think a lot of times people think, okay, I do the retreat, they come and that's it. But have you had any examples of maybe what happens after in their business, or how they could have a back end offer or something like that?
Absolutely. So depending on what you teach at your retreat, I highly recommend that you have an offering that's offered at the retreat. That kind of extends it. So here's what we touched on during the retreat. We kind of touched the surface of this area. If you'd like to go deeper, I've got this 6-week coaching program or 6-month coaching program or 1-year mastermind or this digital course or whatever it is that takes what they started at the retreat and takes it deeper or extends it or teaches them how to now take this learning and acclimate it to real life, right? Because in a retreat environment, you don't have kids running under your feet typically. You don't have a spouse that's like, meh, meh, meh. You don't have work that's telling you that you need to show up at this time. You don't have dishes to do typically. Like literally, it's like a dreamy unicorn space. And so you need to, maybe create something that teaches them how to take these learnings from this retreat space and apply it into their everyday life. So that's one way you can do it, is there at the retreat. The other way is just creating what I have, like, for instance, is my alumni list, right? So I have an alumni list that I nurture. I send out birthday cards. We communicate quite often. I'm just constantly touching base with them. We have an alumni Facebook group. Every other year, I have a very special alumni retreat that's for alumni only. And so I have special alumni programs that they can join. They get a special alumni discount for all of my future programs. And so just really nurturing that alumni, or whatever you want to call them, group, so that, first and foremost, truly, it's so that you can nurture them and continue that relationship. And then second, they're more likely to continue to purchase from you or join you in something, or, want to work with you in some capacity. So those are the two main ways that I've seen that are the most efficient.
Nice. Okay. Is there anything that before someone creates a retreat, aside from learning who their audience is and what they're about and, that kind of thing, but Is there anything that you should be aware of if you're going to plan a retreat? I know you said give yourself 12 months to market if you can. But is there anything else like that we should know or consider if we're going to do this?
Yes, absolutely. Have your budget outlined before you book anything. So for instance, and know what all the requirements are, restrictions are, et cetera. So for instance, you find a couple venues that you're really interested in, run some pricing analysis, right? So this is how much the venue is going to cost. This is how much the food is going to cost. This is how much travel for myself is going to cost. I mean, there's just such a checklist to go through, right? And then on my budget sheet, the very first line item is my profit. Period. That's just what it is. I have a family to support. Also, the more that I support myself and my business, the more people I can hire. So it becomes this like nurturing environment all the way around. But my very first thing is profit. What is my value? What is my worth? What do I want to make in this time space, right? And then it goes into the rest of the hard costs. So I count my profit as hard cost. What's the venue? What's the food? What's the exchange rate? What's the marketing cost that I'm going to build into it? What's the goodie bag cost? Just going through all of that and then finding out what's the minimum number of people that I want is going to be there and divide that up. Anything beyond that is bonus to me. So let's just say the venue sleeps 20, but I need a minimum of 10 to hit all of these hard costs, including my profit. Well, great. Every 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, that's all bonus. And maybe now I can offer scholarships for people who maybe can't pay full price. Or I can hire more staff with that extra profit, whatever may be the case. And so that's kind of the way that I look at it that way. And it's important to know that before you just start booking things, right? Before you start marketing something, it's like, what are my numbers going to look like? And a lot of people shy away from this. They just kind of like, this is what I think it is. I throw it on my credit card and we just go. And then they don't even calculate all the different things that will go into the retreat. Even things like your Canva subscription, right? Or whatever it is that you use to help market your stuff or run your business. And so anyway, so just really calculating all of that. What are the venue requirements? What do they provide? What am I going to have to purchase that they don't provide that I need? So an example would be maybe you've got someone who's really into aerial yoga. Well, does a venue have space for you to do aerial yoga, or are you going to have to rent somewhere else, or whatever may be the case? Like just making sure that the venue has what you need or can get what you need. I'll give you a really silly example that you just don't think about. I'm doing a retreat in Tulum in a couple weeks, and we're doing some worksheet things, and I'm like already packing a crap ton of stuff to bring. And I'm like, oh my gosh, does the venue have clipboards? Like it's so silly, but it's like they don't have clipboards, but they'll go get some for me. So yay, thank you for that. So anyway, so just really breaking down what you want to do at your retreat and then what the costs are associated with that. And so that you have a solid number, not just financial of what you need, but also what will you need? Like what things will you need and how do you make sure you have all that before you go and start marketing something that then later on you find out you had all these extra things you didn't think about and now you're either breaking even or upside down, which I mean, listen, that's not my friend regardless. If it's your very, very first one and those types of mistakes happen, fine, you'll learn from it and move forward. But ideally, that's not where you want to be. And if you just do some extra planning on the front end, you shouldn't be in that space.
Yeah, great tips. So where can people connect with you, check out more about hosting their own retreat, all that good stuff?
Yeah, that probably the easiest website to go to is theretreatranch.com. You'll find me, my parent company, as well as our online courses, all that kind of stuff. But also my podcast, the Retreat Leaders Podcast, offers free tips every single week for those who are thinking about it, or maybe they ventured into it and they were like, oh my gosh, that was so much harder than I thought because I didn't know XYZ. And so, but that's all you can find all of that information on theretreatranch.com.
Amazing. Well, thank you for being here, Shannon. I'm sure this will help a lot of people who've been thinking about this topic.
Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.